I broke into a rich woman's house looking to score some cash, but ended up having a total meltdown in her dumpster fire of a mansion. As a germaphobe thief rocking a six-pack, I literally couldn't help myself and spent the entire afternoon cleaning her place. I left a sticky note calling her out for being a total slob, and snagged $1,895 as my cleaning fee. But wouldn't you know it, the second I picked up my bowl at the noodle shop, the cops grabbed me by the shoulders. Who would have thought Yi Zhiju wouldn't just drop the charges right then and there, but actually started asking me out to eat and shop every single day. She insisted on paying the bill every single time, right up until that glass of red wine slid down my throat. When I opened my eyes the next morning, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had completely fallen right into her trap. The name's Zhang Wei, and I make my living with a little knack for picking locks. Granted, I've never exactly used those skills for anything legal. But hey, I've got a sick mom back in my hometown who desperately needs her meds. The chump change I scrape together every month doesn't even make a dent in those bottomless hospital bills. When your back is pushed right up against the wall, you really don't have the luxury of playing the good guy anymore. My target this time around? Room 1704 in that fancy apartment complex over on the west side. The owner's name was Yi Zhiju. She had gorgeous, flawless skin, brows like a painting. Man, even her name just screamed classy and totally out of my league. I staked her out for 2 whole weeks. Her schedule was as regular as clockwork. A 9 to 6 office worker, as standard as they come. Targets like her mean big payouts and zero risk. She was basically the perfect cash cow, custom made for me. Today was the day to reel it in. I trailed her right up to her building's lobby. I watched her elegant silhouette disappear into the underground garage, and silently counted down for 10 solid minutes. Once I was dead sure she wasn't going to pull a U-turn, I pulled down the brim of my hat. I strolled upstairs, cool as a cucumber, and slipped my pick smoothly into the lock. A quick flick of the wrist, and, click, music to my ears, the door swung open, and I slipped right inside, shutting it behind me. The whole routine was completely flawless. But the very next second, boom, a wave of rotting, leftover takeout funk hit me. The sour stench of unwashed laundry, mixed with the lingering sweetness of expensive perfume. What an absolutely cursed combo. It smacked me right in the face. I just stood there, frozen in the entryway. I honestly thought I'd picked the wrong lock and stumbled into the city dump. Look, I know a lot of kids these days live like slobs, but reaching this level of absolute chaos? I, Zhang Wei, have seen my fair share of crazy things over the years in this business. But this was a real eye-opener. The sofa was just a literal mountain of clothes. You literally couldn't tell what was still clean, and what was totally filthy. And the coffee table? It was a towering, wobbly mess of greasy takeout boxes. Half of them still had rotting food inside. A few boxes were even growing fuzzy patches of mold. Disgusting. Don't even get me started on the floor. There was zero room to step. Snack wrappers, makeup bottles, shredded cardboard boxes strewn everywhere. I honestly wondered if she just levitated around the place, because walking was out of the question. Was this actually the home of the gorgeous Yi Zhiju? Where did all her elegance go? Did it just dissolve into this toxic air? All my so-called professional ethics were instantly washed away by a wave of pure physical disgust. My inner germaphobe simply couldn't handle a place marinated in this much filth. A sudden spark of fury flared up in my chest. What a gorgeous apartment. It had great lighting, incredible airflow, beautifully decorated. So how on earth did she turn it into a literal pigsty? Fine, you win this round, lady. The heist could wait. If I didn't scrub this place back into looking like a human being lived here. I couldn't even find a place to put my foot down to steal anything. If word gets out, it'd be a total disgrace to our profession. I just dumped my tool bag by the door, rolled up my sleeves, and got straight to work. I kept at it until 4:30 in the afternoon. I, Zhang Wei, a decently handsome guy who, thanks to years of hard labor, has built a six-pack, a seriously buff thief, was stuck here in Yi Zhiju's supposed mansion. Sweating buckets acting as a free maid, clearing out the trash, wiping down the counters, mopping the floors. I even sorted out all her expensive-looking clothes, hanging up what needed hanging, and separating out the dry cleaning. Those dirty dishes soaking in the kitchen sink were practically growing mushrooms, and the makeup bottles on the bathroom vanity were knocked over everywhere. I was cursing her out the whole time I was cleaning. This crap was more exhausting than picking 10 locks combined. By the time I finally tied off the last trash bag, it was already getting dark outside. I looked at the brand new living room in front of me. The floor was so polished you could see your reflection in it. Everything was perfectly organized, and the air just smelled like that light, fresh lemon scent of cleaning supplies. I let out a huge sigh of relief. This completely absurd sense of achievement just washed over me. God, I was tired. So freaking tired I could drop dead. I headed into her bedroom, trying to find something worth stealing. There was some loose cash and cheap jewelry scattered in the nightstand drawer. I rummaged through it all, but there wasn't much cash. Just $1,895 in total. Looking at that small stack of bills, I finally felt a little bit better about this whole mess. Alright then, I'll just take this as my damn cleaning fee. Even though this measly payout does not match my intense physical labor at all. I found a sticky note and left her a message in my coolest, most dashing handwriting. Such a nice place, and look at the absolute pigsty you turned it into. Even a professional thief couldn't stand looking at it. I've been cleaning since the minute you left for work. It took me the entire day to finish. I'm completely dead on my feet here. I'm taking the loose cash in your drawer as my cleaning fee. If you really don't have the time to clean in the future, remember to hire a damn maid? Slapping that note, full of righteous anger and professional concern, right onto the coffee table. I pocketed my $1,895 of hard-earned cash, grabbed my tool bag, and dragged my utterly exhausted body out of the battlefield I'd been fighting in all day. Later, Yi Zhiju dragged her own practically broken body all the way to her front door. Work at the company had been exceptionally crazy today, and she felt completely drained. Her only thought right now was to kick off those painful heels and bury herself flat into her giant pile of soft, messy laundry. The key slid into the lock, she gave it a gentle twist, and with a crisp click, the door swung open. But that familiar, chaotic stench of overnight takeout mixed with expensive perfume didn't hit her in the face like it usually did. Instead, it was replaced by a cool, incredibly fresh burst of lemon scent. Yi Zhiju's foot instantly froze in midair. Wait, is this my house? She jerked her foot back like she'd been electrocuted. Frowning in total confusion, she looked up to check the door number. 1704. Nope, that's right. This is definitely my royal pigsty. Wait, no, this is my majestic palace. She cautiously leaned half her body back through the doorway, and her eyes went wide with shock. The floor, which was normally swallowed up by mountains of pure junk, was actually shining like brand new. It was so clean it perfectly reflected her overly shocked, dumbfounded expression. The massive mountain of clothes on the sofa had completely vanished into thin air, finally exposing the nice, textured fabric underneath. And the coffee table, oh my god. She had almost forgotten that her coffee table was actually made of clear glass. Looking like someone who had just stepped onto a completely alien planet, she tiptoed inside, trembling with every step. Terrified of ruining this strange yet familiar sanctuary, she lowered her voice and gasped. Holy crap, everywhere she looked was perfectly spotless, perfectly organized. She dashed into the bedroom. Her bed, which was normally a disaster zone, was now made so neatly. Even the folds of the blankets looked like a work of art. With trembling fingers, she pulled open the closet doors. Inside, her clothes were sorted by color, by season, and hung up with absolute perfection. Even her cute little cartoon panties and sexy lace underwear were perfectly folded and tucked into their own little storage cubes. They even smelled like fresh sunshine and laundry detergent. She let out a shriek and covered her burning cheeks. A wave of blazing heat shot straight from her toes to the top of her head. But rushing into the kitchen was even more mind-blowing. The stove was sparkling clean. The polished surface of the range hood actually reflected her face. A face looking completely dumbfounded by the shock. The massive mountain of dirty dishes in the sink had vanished completely. The drying rack was practically gleaming. Did the cleaning fairy magically appear? Or is some guy from the office who has a crush on me trying to play the secret admirer? Wait a minute, there are only 2 keys to this place. I have one, and the other one is. Right as her brain's CPU was about to completely crash, her eyes landed back on that aggressively clean coffee table in the living room. A sticky note was sitting there, catching her eye. She walked over and picked it up. The handwriting was actually kind of elegant. Such a nice apartment, and look at the absolute state you've turned it into. Even as a burglar, I couldn't stand looking at this mess. I started cleaning the second you left for work. It took me the entire day to finish. I am absolutely exhausted. Consider the 1,000 or so bucks in your drawer as my cleaning fee. In the future, if you really don't have the time, do yourself a favor and hire a maid. Signed, the burglar. Yi Zhiju snapped out of her daze and sprinted back into the bedroom. She yanked open the nightstand drawer. Sure enough, all her scattered cash was gone. An icy chill shot from her heels all the way to her brain. Her house had been robbed. But seriously, what was wrong with this guy? He didn't even touch her expensive jewelry or electronics. He only took less than 2,000 in cash, and then gave her apartment a complete, floor-to-ceiling deep clean? And he even left a thoughtful little note to scold her. Wasn't this plot twist getting a bit ridiculous? Then, she remembered the hidden mini camera tucked inside her living room plant. She frantically pulled out her phone to check the footage. Fast-forwarding through the clip, there on the screen, a tall, well-built man appeared, slipping in right after she had left for the day. He picked the lock with smooth, practiced ease. Yi Zhiju's heart skipped a beat. Here it comes. She watched as the man stepped inside, and had the exact same reaction she just had. He just completely froze. The camera perfectly caught the flash of utter shock on his face, followed by a look of pure, indescribable despair. And then, the most absurd scene began to unfold. Instead of ransacking the place for valuables, he just stood there with his hands on his hips, taking a deep, heavy breath as he stared down her absolute pigsty. Then, as if he had finally made up his mind, he tossed his little burglar bag by the door, and after that, the camera recorded a live performance of what could only be called an absolute miracle in the cleaning industry. Taking out the trash, wiping down the counters, mopping the floors, and sorting out all the laundry. His movements were sharp and efficient, paying attention to every tiny detail. Especially when she saw the guy on the security footage, frowning in deep concentration, yet still carefully hand-washing her intimate items, including the lacy panties she had carelessly tossed aside. Yi Zhiju's face instantly burned red all the way to her ears. Oh my god, this is way too embarrassing. But for some inexplicable reason, as she kept staring at the screen, watching the strange man sweating bullets, 1 second, he'd look utterly disgusted by a stubborn stain, and the next, she'd catch his handsome side profile, giving a little nod of satisfaction after conquering a tough corner. She actually couldn't hold back a giggle, feeling a strange, fluttery sensation stirring deep inside her heart. The way he looked so intensely focused on doing chores, his jawline sharp and incredibly masculine. Every movement highlighted the outline of his tight, solid muscles, especially when he leaned over, giving a teasing glimpse of those hard abs. Hey, stop it. What the heck are you fantasizing about? The guy's a burglar. The final frame of the security footage froze. Right at the moment the man turned and walked away, clutching the cash. Yi Zhiju curled up on the couch, hugging her phone tightly. Her heart was racing completely out of control. It was like her brain was stuck on a loop, uncontrollably replaying the scene over and over. A guy who was hot, totally in shape, and weirdly obsessed with doing chores. He had crashed into her world in the most ridiculous way possible. The more she thought about it, the hotter her cheeks burned. The more she replayed it in her head, the wilder her heart pounded against her ribs. After a long moment, she took a deep, steadying breath, trying her absolute best to calm her frantic heartbeat and cool down her burning face. And then, she silently made up her mind. With long, pale fingers that were trembling slightly, she picked up her phone and unlocked the screen. Her voice carried a subtle mix of flustered embarrassment, and a tiny hint of excitement. Hello? I need to report a break-in. A really, really weird burglar just broke into my house. After I bailed from Yi Zhiju's place, the night had already completely taken over the streets. I aimlessly wandered down to the food street, with those 1,000 bucks stuffed in my pocket. But my pocket felt strangely heavy, dragging me down, and it definitely wasn't the weight of the cash. It was a heavy, sinking feeling in my chest. This whole job was a total bust, all effort and zero payoff. If word of this got out, the other guys in the underworld would laugh their heads off at me. I was absolutely dead on my feet, and my stomach was so empty it felt glued to my spine. Catching sight of old Chen's noodle shop at the corner of the street, my legs just moved on autopilot, and steered me straight through the door. Hey boss, 1 large bowl of beef noodle soup. Extra meat, extra egg. I slapped the cash down on the greasy, shiny tabletop. My voice was practically dripping with the pure exhaustion of scrubbing down a house all day. Old Chen hollered back, totally used to it. Coming right up, Xiao Wei. You look like you've been through the ringer today, kid. I just let out a vague grunt in response, and slumped into a seat in the corner. The shop was filled with the rich, savory smell of bone broth and the comforting, everyday hustle of the streets. It was only then that it finally hit me. I had actually managed to retreat from the battlefield of Yi Ziju's apartment back to the real world. The steaming bowl of noodles arrived in no time. I grabbed my chopsticks, gave it a good stir, blew off the steam, and was just about to shove it into my mouth. But right at that exact second, several guys in uniform burst through the doors. Freeze, nobody move. Before my brain could even process what was happening, both of my arms were violently yanked behind my back. Click, a sharp, metallic snap echoed, and a pair of freezing cold handcuffs clamped down dead tight on my wrists. The bite of noodles still hanging from my chopsticks plopped sadly back into the bowl, splashing up a few drops of greasy broth. The diners in the noodle shop were completely dumbfounded, all eyes snapping right over to me. My brain just buzzed, and went completely blank. I knew getting caught in this line of work was just a matter of time. After all, if you play with fire, you're bound to get burned. But man, how did it happen so damn fast? It was the cameras. It had to be. Definitely the cameras. Yi Ziju must have had some hidden camera stashed in her place. I was so caught up in scrubbing the place down. How the hell did I just completely forget my basic professional instincts? Name, a young cop demanded, staring me down with a deadpan expression. Zhang Wei, I muttered, keeping my head hung low. My face was burning up. And honestly, it wasn't even because I got caught. It was purely because getting busted like this was just too damn embarrassing. Was it you who broke into apartment 1704 at Legion Gardens this afternoon? He kept pressing. Yeah. I confessed. The cameras probably caught everything in crystal clear detail anyway. They caught me red-handed. Denying it would just be a waste of breath. 09, take him away. Two of them hauled me out of the noodle shop and shoved me into the back of a squad car. Through the window glass, I could see the people on the street pointing and whispering. And old Chen's face, looking so shocked and disappointed. I was totally screwed this time. Breaking and entering, even though the amount of cash I took wasn't that big, it was still more than enough to land me in deep trouble. And my mom was still at the hospital, desperately needing that money. I'm such a piece of trash, sitting there in the interrogation room, with those harsh lights blinding my eyes. I spilled the whole story from start to finish, including how I picked the lock to get inside, how I was absolutely horrified by the mess, and how, for some ridiculous reason, I ended up giving the place a deep clean. How I took exactly $1,895 as a cleaning fee, and even left a nasty note calling her a lazy slob. The cop taking down my statement. Man, the look on his face was just priceless. He clearly wanted to crack up but was trying so hard to hold it in. Zhang Wei, does this count as a sudden urge to do a good deed in the middle of a burglary? I just grimaced and replied. I just couldn't help myself. I couldn't stand seeing a place that filthy. I haven't touched a single cent of that money. It's right here in my pocket. I'll give it all back. Whatever the punishment is, I'll take it. After all the paperwork was done, they tossed me into a temporary holding cell. Lying there on that rock-hard wooden bed, I just stared blankly up at the ceiling. My stomach tying itself into knots. I was feeling a million different things all at once. The next morning, I was just sitting there, questioning my life choices. When the guard walked over. Zhang Wei, step outside. I figured they were pulling me out for another interrogation. I hung my head and followed him out. But I never in a million years expected that in the visiting room, right next to the cops, there would be a woman standing there. There was this weird, indescribable tension hanging in the air of that room. I kept my chin buried in my chest, only catching a glimpse of her soft silhouette out of the corner of my eye. Yi Ziju was wearing a light blue dress today, her long, jet black hair falling gracefully over her shoulders. She was standing right next to an officer, looking a little nervous. But also, faintly hiding this weird, unexplainable sense of excitement. You're Zhang Wei, right? The older police officer spoke first, after our verification. And speaking directly with Ms. Yi Zhiju, there are a few things we need to make clear to you. My heart lurched violently. I held my breath, waiting for the final verdict. First of all, according to our local laws, the threshold for a criminal theft charge is generally set at 2,000 yuan. The officer paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping over me before turning to Yi Zhiju. The cash you took that day, as Ms. Yi has confirmed, totals 1,895 yuan. That number simply doesn't meet the threshold for a criminal case. Right after that, the officer's tone softened significantly. Furthermore, Ms. Yi Zhiju, after fully understanding what happened, voluntarily submitted a formal letter of forgiveness. She will not be pressing any charges against you. I snapped my head up, staring at Yi Zhiju in absolute shock. She just so happened to be stealing a glance at me, too. Our eyes locked in midair, like a startled deer. She quickly darted her eyes away, but the craziest part was, a highly suspicious, rosy blush actually crept up her fair cheeks. I broke her door lock and stole over 1,000 yuan in cash from her. And not only is she dropping the charges, she even wrote a letter of forgiveness? Finally, the officer cleared his throat, seemingly trying his best to keep a straight, serious face. Now, your actions, although they do constitute trespassing and clearly show an intent to steal, the specific circumstances of how this played out are, well, quite unique. Taking everything into consideration, this is your very first offense, and your remorse is genuinely sincere. Since the stolen amount didn't cross the criminal threshold, and you've received full forgiveness from the victim, we've reviewed the case and made our final decision. For your actions this time, there will be no criminal investigation, no criminal charges. I'm off the hook. This massive wave of relief hit me so hard, it left my head spinning. However, the officer's tone suddenly grew sharp. The law is no joke. Breaking into someone's home is still an undeniable violation of the law. Considering the unique nature of your offense, along with the underlying disruption it causes to public order, we have decided to give you 15 days of administrative detention. You'll also undergo mandatory legal education. I hope you reflect deeply on this. From now on, stand up straight and live as an honest man. 15 days in detention? Compared to the actual prison time I was facing, this felt like going from a heavy sentence to a mere slap on the wrist. It was so light I felt like I was floating. I accept it. I'll reflect on my mistakes, I promise. Thank you, sir. Thank you, officer. I nodded frantically, the massive boulder crushing my chest finally rolling completely away. Once the paperwork was done, I followed the guard toward the door to check into the detention center. In the split second I walked past Yi Zhiju, I just couldn't help myself. I stopped in my tracks. I shot her a look, my mind completely reeling. Miss Yi, thank you. I stammered out the words, completely clueless about what kind of face to make in front of the victim. Breaking and entering somehow led to drop charges, plus a complimentary 15-day, all expenses paid legal education retreat. I guess my situation was a total freak occurrence. You just don't see that every day. Yi Zhiju looked up at me, a lingering blush still painted across her cheeks. She quickly dropped her voice to a whisper. Actually, I'm the one who should be thanking you for cleaning my place up so perfectly. It's never been that tidy before. Her voice trailed off, getting quieter and quieter, until it was barely a whisper. Right on cue, the guard standing next to us let out a dry cough. I quickly hurried along, but my mind was an absolute whirlwind of confusion. How on earth did her brain work? Anyway, my 15 days in lockup flew by in the blink of an eye. Every day, aside from studying the law, I spent all my free time doing some serious soul-searching. I had finally figured it out. I was done with this shady lifestyle for good. I got incredibly lucky this time, but who knows what kind of hell I'd face next time. It was a total gamble. If nothing else, for the sake of my sick mother lying in that hospital bed, I absolutely had to find a clean, honest way to make a living. The moment I stepped out of those detention center doors, the sunlight hit me, almost blindingly bright. I took a massive, deep breath of sweet, free air. I was ready to turn over a brand new leaf. But who would have guessed, the second I reached the corner of the street, A snow-white Porsche glided silently right up next to me. The window slowly rolled down, revealing Yi Ziju's pretty, perfectly made-up face, still glowing with that same faint blush. "Zhang Wei, you're out." I stood there, absolutely glued to the pavement, alarm bells blaring wildly in my head. What the hell was this girl playing at? "Miss Yi, do you need something?" The case was closed, wasn't it? Why was she coming after me now? Yi Ziju bit her lower lip, like she was gathering every ounce of her courage. "So, to celebrate you getting your freedom back, let me take you out for a meal. Just, look at it as a thank you for deep cleaning my place." My eyes nearly popped out of my skull. I genuinely thought my ears were playing tricks on me. The victim was bending over backwards to treat the guy who broke into her house. And her reason? Gratitude, for cleaning the very apartment I was trying to rob. "Miss Yi, I really don't think that's a good idea. I mean, I literally..." "Oh, come on, let bygones be bygones. I already signed the forgiveness waiver, didn't I? Just tell me, are you gonna give me the honor or not?" There was a bossy, almost flirtatious edge to her voice, but her eyes were brimming with pure hope. There was even this undeniable confidence about her that made it impossible to say no. Looking at her like that, it was like she had completely bewitched me. Without even thinking, I caught myself nodding. Yeah, alright." Feeling completely awkward, I pulled open the passenger door and slid inside. The car was filled with the exact same fresh lemon scent that I'd left in her apartment, mixed with her own sweet, intoxicating perfume. The seats were plush, the ride was incredibly smooth, but it only made my skin crawl with anxiety. I mean, I just walked out of a jail cell. Me sitting here in a luxury car next to a gorgeous woman? It was the most bizarre, out-of-place thing in the world. Yi Ziju seemed a little on edge herself, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. She kept her eyes focused on the road, only occasionally using the corner of her eye to shoot a quick, fleeting glance my way. Finally, the car pulled up to the entrance of what looked like a very upscale, private restaurant. The surroundings were quiet and elegant, and the private room was even more exquisitely decorated. It was a whole other world compared to the greasy, bustling little diners I was used to. As she flipped through the menu, her eyes barely even registered the prices. She smoothly rattled off a few dishes. "Is there anything you don't eat?" I kept it short. "No. Anything is fine." With the way things were going, how could I possibly care about the menu? My mind was completely consumed by how incredibly bizarre this whole situation was. Once all the food had arrived, we were left completely alone in the private room. That subtle, awkward tension in the air grew even thicker. The table was full of exquisitely plated delicacies, looking and smelling amazing, but in my mouth, it all tasted like cardboard. Miss Yi, why are you helping me? And why treat me to this dinner? I'm literally a..." The word thief reached my lips, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it. But she knew exactly what I meant. A faint, rosy blush crept up Yi Ziju's cheeks. She idly poked at the grains of rice in her bowl with the tips of her chopsticks, keeping her voice low. At first, I was pretty mad, and honestly, I was terrified too. But then I watched the security footage, and I just thought you were so weird. You didn't really seem like a bad guy. She paused for a moment, then looked up, her eyes shining brightly as she looked at me. Who ever heard of a burglar spending an entire day doing a deep clean for the homeowner? And then leaving a note to lecture me on top of it. Do you have any idea how funny you looked? Grimacing and gritting your teeth at those stubborn stains while mopping, and then carefully sorting and folding my underwear. With that perfectly mixed expression of absolute disgust and deadly seriousness. It was hilarious. My face instantly felt like it was on fire, flushing beet red from the base of my neck all the way up to my forehead. She really had gone through every single second of that footage, even those embarrassing details. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. That was just my OCD acting up. I desperately tried to find an excuse to save face. But Yi Ziju suddenly burst into a radiant smile. "I know. That's exactly why I thought you were so special," she said, placing a piece of food into my bowl. Her tone became much more relaxed and casual. "Actually, I really should be thanking you. Opening the door that day and seeing how spotless everything was. It honestly made my whole week feel so much brighter. Plus, I had someone look into your background. You're really strapped for cash right now, aren't you? My heart violently dropped. I stared at her, instantly on high alert. She investigated me? Hey, please don't overthink it. I really don't mean anything bad by it. I just wanted to help you out. As for your mother's hospital bills, I've already gone ahead and deposited a lump sum into her account. So you don't need to stress about that for a while. Wait, what? She covered my medical bills for me. That hit me like a bomb out of nowhere, blowing my mind completely blank. No way, I can't take this money. We barely even know each other. Besides, I blurted it out, barely even thinking. Yi Zhiju cut me off, leaning forward just a bit. She leaned in closer, her warm breath, laced with perfume, brushing right against my cheek. Her voice took on a soft, teasing edge. I already told you, it's just a loan. It's not a handout. If you really feel that bad about it, you can just pay me back slowly. How am I supposed to pay you back? I instinctively wanted to say I couldn't even land a decent job. But the moment I looked up, I met her eyes just inches away. They were shimmering, perfectly reflecting my flustered, pathetic state. Oh, that's easy. You can keep cleaning my place to work off the debt. I've watched your skills very closely, and I am extremely satisfied. I'll give you 1,000 a trip. How does that sound? 1,000 a trip? That rate was light years beyond the normal market price. Not to mention, the words clean my place slipping from her lips, combined with how close we were and that look in her eyes. It completely changed the vibe. It didn't sound like simple manual labor at all anymore. My heart started pounding wildly in my chest, and my Adam's apple bobbed uncontrollably. It felt like tiny, silent sparks of electricity were crackling in the air. The temperature in the room seemed to spike a few degrees. What exactly do you mean by that? She leaned back in her chair, picking up her wine glass and giving it a gentle swirl. Exactly what it sounds like, but her eyes were still locked right onto me. Ever since that weirdly tense thank you dinner, it felt like some strange, invisible thread connected Yi Zhiju and me. Every 3 or 4 days, her texts would come in right on schedule. The message was always exactly the same, yet her tone was as bold and bossy as ever. Zhang Wei, my place is a mess again. Hurry over and clean it. And right at the bottom, there was always a money transfer attached. A solid 1,000, every single time. I'd secretly remind myself, you're just paying off a debt. This is a real job. But whenever I gripped that key and unlocked door 1704, looking at a room that wasn't quite as disastrous as the first time, but still a total mess, I'd get this weird, unexplainable knot in my chest. What exactly was my role here? Her personal cleaner? Or just some toy for her weird little fetish? Whenever I cleaned, Yi Zhiju was sometimes home, and sometimes she wasn't. If she was around, she'd curl up deep into the sofa, resting her laptop on her knees to do some work, or just binge watching some shows. Every now and then, her eyes would drift off the screen and follow me around, but she wasn't glaring at me like some strict boss checking my work. It felt way more like she was admiring the view. It totally gave me goosebumps, making my mopping look incredibly awkward and stiff. There was this one time, I was wrestling with this ancient, stubborn grease stain on the kitchen stove, and she shuffled over in her fuzzy slippers. Zhang Wei, is cleaning literally the only thing you know how to do? I'm starving. I'm so sick of ordering takeout. I didn't even bother looking up and just snapped right back. If you're so sick of takeout, just learn how to cook. But I don't know how. A hint of a whine slipped into her voice. Seeing how fast you work, your cooking can't be bad, right? Show me what you got. I don't know if her tone provoked me, or if I just wanted to prove something deep down. But I somehow found myself dropping the rag and washing my hands. I pulled open her fridge. Surprisingly, it was fully stocked. Looked like she had just gone grocery shopping. What do you want to eat? I tied on an apron, keeping my tone stiff. Whatever, I'll eat anything you make. That day, using whatever I could find in the fridge, I whipped up a simple 3-dish meal with soup, braised pork ribs, steamed sea bass, garlic broccoli, and a bowl of tomato egg drop soup. Nothing fancy, just everyday home cooking. But I nailed the heat and seasoning perfectly. When the food hit the table, Yi Zhiju took one bite of the ribs, and her eyes curled into happy little crescents. Zhang Wei. This is so good. She devoured the food like a whirlwind, totally throwing her image out the window. Shoveling food into her mouth, she mumbled her praises. "This is better than a 5-star chef. Your cooking is amazing." Watching her eat so happily, the reluctance in my chest inexplicably faded. I even felt a weird little sense of pride. After that meal, Yi Jiju started calling me over to clean way more often. And her focus clearly shifted from sweeping and organizing to having me cook. Until one day, I had just finished tidying up her living room and was about to head to the kitchen. When she called me over, "Zhang Wei, let's make a deal." I could hear the smile in her voice. "Look, you're amazing at cleaning. And your cooking hits the exact spot for me. And on my end, I happen to need someone reliable to manage my place. Stop working all those odd jobs. Just come be my full-time live-in housekeeper. What do you say? Full-time, live-in?" "Yep, 10,000 a month. Room and board included. And your mom's medical bills? I'll cover them all, until she makes a full recovery." So, with a deal like this, you'd be crazy to say no, right? Over 10,000 a month. My mother's medical bills fully paid for. Calling this offer generous would be the understatement of the century. It was an absolute godsend, landing exactly when I was most desperate. I couldn't find a single reason to refuse, and honestly, I didn't want to. Alright, it's a deal. I packed up my few belongings and officially moved into Yi Jiju's guest room. Promoted right on the spot from a part-time cleaner to a live-in housekeeper. The job was exactly what she promised. Cleaning, cooking, and occasionally running errands for her. And her payouts were shockingly generous. She even advanced my first month's salary, letting me send the money home right away. But from the very moment I moved into Yi Jiju's house, that initial thrill of striking it lucky was quickly replaced by a daily, growing torment. And the source of this torment was none other than Yi Jiju herself. It was like she had completely let her guard down, or rather, she stripped away all her inhibitions right in front of me. Her loungewear became increasingly bold and carefree. Those silk slip dresses practically became her daily uniform, the fabric so thin it was barely there. Clinging tightly to every single curve of her gorgeous figure. I never had the chance to really look at her before. But now, living under the same roof, I realized just how ridiculously stunning her body actually was. She was like a wild rose blooming out of control, radiant and unapologetic. Radiating this incredibly intoxicating scent all over. And me, the so-called live-in nanny, enduring this extreme visual assault day in and day out. Barely holding on to whatever shred of sanity I had left. I kept telling myself, "Zhang Wei, you are here to do a job. She's the boss who pays your salary. Your mom's medical bills depend on her. Don't you dare entertain any of those improper thoughts." And so, I tried my absolute best to play the perfect, blind, and oblivious nanny. Whenever she fluttered past me in those skimpy outfits, I immediately looked down and scrubbed the table. Whenever she bent over to pick something up, flashing those tempting curves, I instantly spun around to stare intensely at the stove flames. But unfortunately, Yi Jiju seemed hell-bent on testing the absolute limits of my self-control. She never got tired of dancing right on the edge of my boundaries. Days slipped away, caught between my awkward struggles as a live-in nanny and her careless, breezy comfort. The calendar pages turned silently. Then, one weekend afternoon, she stepped out of her bedroom, fully dressed. "Zhang Wei, come on, come out with me." "Where to?" I asked. "To the movies. A coworker gave me these tickets, might as well use them." We made our way to the theater, grabbed our tickets, walked in, and found our seats. It wasn't until the lights went down and that creepy, bone-chilling opening music started playing that I finally realized we were watching a horror movie. I subconsciously turned my head, glancing over at Yi Jiju next to me. The eerie glow from the screen flickered across her face in the dark. The pacing of the movie was relentless, throwing one jump scare after another at us. Every single time a ghost flashed on screen or a loud sound effect blasted, Yi Jiju would violently flinch and let out a sharp, muffled gasp. We weren't even 20 minutes into the movie, and she had unknowingly shifted all the way over from her seat to mine, pressing her arm tightly against mine. I could feel the faint trembling coming from her body. "Hey, are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said stubbornly. But I could clearly hear her voice shaking. "It's just a little cold in here." Yeah right, my gut told me she was terrified. Right at that moment, an incredibly gory scene flashed across the screen, followed by a blood-curdling scream from the characters. Yi Zhiju let out a tiny shriek, and flinched hard toward me, burying her face straight into my chest. This warm, soft body crashed right into me without any warning. Her lovely scent, mixed with the sweet, buttery smell of movie theater popcorn, flooded my senses all at once. My entire body froze. My arms just hovered in midair, having absolutely no idea where to put them. My mind went completely blank. All I could process was the trembling, delicate girl huddled in my arms. The sensation of her touch was startlingly clear. Scared? If you're scared, stop watching. No way. I can't let the ticket go to waste, she mumbled, burying her face into my chest. She gave a muffled reply, showing absolutely zero intention of leaving my arms. And so, for the entire second half of the movie, she practically spent it curled up in my arms. I had officially turned into a giant, human-sized body pillow. I didn't dare move a muscle. My arms eventually found themselves hovering gently around her back, careful and terrified of brushing against anything I shouldn't. I didn't absorb a single frame of the plot on screen. Every last one of my senses was completely hijacked by the woman in my arms. Her hair brushed against my chin, tickling me slightly. Her warm breath seeped right through my shirt, burning against my skin. Her soft curves were pressed tightly against me. It was absolute, pure, sweet torture. When the theater lights suddenly flicked on, she bounced out of my arms like she'd just been burned, her cheeks flushed a deep, furious red. Let's go. She scrambled to her feet, practically fleeing the scene. I took a long, deep breath, forcing down the restless heat in my chest, and hurried after her. On the drive home, a thick, awkward silence filled the car. She kept her eyes glued to the steering wheel, while I turned my head, staring out at the night sky flashing by the window. But the memory of her soft body in my arms, and my own heart hammering like a drum, refused to fade. I thought that was the end of it, but who would have guessed, right in the middle of the night. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, there came a soft, timid knock at my bedroom door. "Zhang Wei, are you asleep?" Yi Zhiju's voice drifted through the door, trembling with a hint of fear. I groaned, dragged myself out of bed, and opened the door. There she stood, wearing a practically see-through silk slip dress, with a thin jacket thrown loosely over her shoulders. She was hugging a pillow tightly to her chest, standing barefoot in the doorway. Her eyes were slightly red-rimmed. She looked exactly like a startled, frightened rabbit. I'm a little scared. The scenes from that movie just keep flashing in my head. I can't sleep. Can I, maybe sleep on the floor in here? Looking at her pitiful, pleading face, and then glancing down at an outfit that left absolutely nothing to the imagination, I felt a violent throbbing in my temples. Let her sleep on the floor in my room? Are you kidding me? A man and a woman, all alone in the dark. That's a recipe for disaster. But then again, she was the boss. The very boss who signed my paychecks and fronted the cash for my mother's medical bills. And right now, she was terrified out of her mind, just asking for one tiny little favor. I took a deep, steadying breath. You take the bed, I'll take the floor. No, I couldn't possibly. It's fine, really, I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. I was already pulling the spare blankets out of the closet. You're the boss. I'm not about to let my boss sleep on the floor. She watched in silence as I whipped together a makeshift bed on the ground in record time. Well then, thank you. She finally whispered her reply, tiptoeing over and climbing gently into my bed. I flicked off the main overhead light, leaving only the dim, warm glow of the bedside lamp. Then, I practically dove into my blankets on the floor, turning my back completely toward the bed. I squeezed my eyes shut as tight as I could. Good night, Zhang Wei. Her voice drifted over from the bed, carrying a faint, barely noticeable sigh at the end. Good night. The bedroom fell back into a deep silence, leaving only the soft rise and fall of our breathing. I could even catch the faint rustle of her tossing in bed. The whisper of fabric rubbing against itself was magnified in the quiet of the night. I don't even know how much time passed before my exhausted body and wound-up nerves finally gave in. And I sank heavily into a deep sleep. In my dreams, it felt like I was right back in my childhood, cradling the old orange cat we had kept for years. It was so incredibly fluffy and toasty warm, smelling completely of sun-baked warmth. It curled up into a cozy little spot right in the crook of my arm, purring away with total satisfaction. Without even thinking, I pulled my arms tighter, drawing that soft, fuzzy warmth deeper into my chest, rubbing my cheek against its velvety forehead. An unbelievable sense of peace and contentment washed over me, wrapping me up completely. This dream was just so nice. Ever since that night we shared the same room, the line between me and Yi Zhiju had grown incredibly blurry and complicated. It was like she had discovered some fun new game, dragging me out on weekends way more often. She called it experiencing life, saying we shouldn't stay cooped up inside all the time. But under the surface of every single trip, there was this unspoken, deeply romantic tension. Like when we'd go to an art gallery, she would wear this tight-fitting pencil dress, and right when I leaned in to read an exhibit label, she would lean down perfectly close to me, or when we hit up a new designer boutique, trying on those dresses with crazy price tags, she would always peek out from behind the fitting room curtain and ask, "Zhang Wei, does this look good on me?" All these back-to-back dates, combined with our day-to-day life under the same roof, really started to show me who she was beneath the surface. Whenever she was in a good mood, she would open up and share bits and pieces about herself. Slowly but surely, I pieced together her story. She was a classic rich kid. Her dad used to run a pretty massive company back in the day, so her family was incredibly wealthy. But life has a cruel way of changing things up. A few years ago, her dad was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Right before he passed, for whatever reason, he sold off most of his shares in the business, leaving behind just enough of a fortune to make sure she and her mom would never have to worry about money again. Her mom took the loss really hard. These days, she spends her time traveling all over the world just to clear her head, and hardly ever comes home. As for Yi Zhiju, she had gotten sick of the wild parties and high society networking a long time ago. She just found it all completely meaningless. So, she picked up a chill desk job, purely just to kill time. So why didn't you just hire a maid before? Or get a proper housekeeper? I finally blurted out the question that had been eating at me for a while. With her kind of money, finding a professional cleaner would have been a piece of cake. Why would she let her place turn into such a total dump? And why on earth would she take in an amateur thief like me? Hearing this, Yi Zhiju paused for a second, right as she was arranging the lilies I had just bought into a vase. She turned to look at me, a little smile playing on her lips. "Those people you hire could never be as attentive as you." Her smile was a bit self-deprecating, mixed with something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Her voice was breathy and light, her gaze lingering softly over my face. But in the end, she never really gave me a straight answer. And so the days slipped quietly by, me playing the role of live-in nanny, and Yi Zhiju turning up the heat on her little flirtations. Until my birthday came around. I had honestly almost completely forgotten about it, until my mom sent me a text to wish me a happy birthday that morning. I was just starting to feel a little homesick and emotional, when Yi Zhiju sidled up to me looking all mysterious. "Zhang Wei, it's absolutely gorgeous out today. Stop hiding in the house. Come out and keep me company." Before I could even utter a single word, she dragged me right out the door. And just like that, we wandered around from the break of dawn all the way until dusk. It was as if she had planned out a flawless itinerary in advance, packing our schedule to the absolute brim. Yet every little detail was so thoughtful. We went to that science exhibit I had been dying to see, but could never bring myself to pay the entrance fee for, and then we had an unbelievably fancy lunch at a revolving restaurant on the top floor. In the afternoon, she even dragged me into that arcade I used to be obsessed with as a kid. She looked so adorably clumsy when she tried the shooting games, and she couldn't catch a single beat on the drumming game. But when she laughed, she was so incredibly wild and carefree. Just like a high school girl who had skipped class to sneak out. As the sun began to set, my hands were completely full of bags, big and small, 9 out of 10 being her shopping loot. My legs were so sore they barely even felt like mine anymore. "What do you want to eat for dinner?" "My treat, you pick the restaurant." Looking out at the city lights flickering on one by one, an unexplainable exhaustion and a sudden longing washed over me all at once. "How about, we just eat at home tonight? I'll cook for you." Yi Zhiju froze for a second, but then her eyes curled up into happy little crescents. "Okay, let's eat at home. Let's go to the supermarket to buy some groceries." We made our way into the neighborhood grocery store. She pushed the shopping cart around like a kid fascinated by absolutely everything, tossing whatever ingredients caught her eye right into the cart. "Do you know how to make this? What about that one?" I want to try your signature dish." Eventually, we lugged several stuffed bags of groceries, all the way back to apartment 1704. In the kitchen, I threw on an apron and immediately dove straight into the hustle and bustle at the stove. Surprisingly, she didn't just curl up on the couch like usual. Instead, she dragged over a bar stool, sat right by the kitchen island, resting her chin in her hands, and watched me quietly, washing the veggies, chopping the ingredients, tossing the wok, adding the seasonings. I was completely focused on the cooking, so all she could hear was the rhythmic thud of the knife on the cutting board, the sizzling of the oil in the pan, and my occasional requests for a hand. "Pass me that plate, would you? Okay, grab me a green onion." Coming right up, she buzzed around like an eager little bee, happily being my sous chef. Bathed in the warm yellow glow of the lights, the whole room was filled with a comforting, peaceful feeling I had never felt before. By the time the final soup was taken off the stove, the dining table was already packed with 9 mouth-watering, beautifully cooked dishes. Yi Zhiju somehow magically pulled out a bottle of red wine that looked incredibly expensive, popping the cork like a pro. After pouring it into the decanter, she smiled and poured me a glass. Then poured a full glass for herself. "Thanks for all the hard work, chef." Looking at this whole table full of food, and then at her beautiful, smiling face right across from me, a little corner of my heart felt like it was soaking in warm water, melting into total mush. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced in a very long time. But just as I picked up my chopsticks, ready to dig into this extraordinary birthday feast, Yi Zhiju reached over and gently pressed down on my wrist. Her eyes sparkled with a sly but incredibly hopeful light. "There's still one very important step." I froze. "But today we've already." "None of that counts," she cut me off. She stood up straight, pulled me over to the living room sofa, and gently pushed me down into it. "Sit right here, and close your eyes. No peeking." Her tone carried a stubborn, playful bossiness that left no room for argument. I did as I was told and shut my eyes, feeling both amused and intensely curious. I wondered what kind of crazy stunt this spoiled princess was pulling now. Beside my ear, I heard the light pitter-patter of her footsteps hurrying toward the bedroom. Then came the soft click of the door shutting. The seconds ticked by, agonizingly slow. The living room was so dead silent that I could hear my own heartbeat. What on earth was she up to? Just as I was about to lose my patience and sneak a peek, the faint, melodic tinkling of jade pendants drifted through the air. It was accompanied by a soft, elegant fragrance, something entirely different from her usual everyday perfume. "You can open them now," her voice softly rang out, laced with a subtle hint of nervousness and shy anticipation. Slowly, I fluttered my eyes open. In that split second, my breath caught in my throat. My heart skipped an entire beat. There, bathing in the living room's soft, warm light, Yi Zhiju stood quietly. She had actually changed into an absolutely breathtaking, traditional hanfu. It was an exquisite, water blue dress flowing right from the chest, made of the finest silk. Intricate lotus patterns were delicately woven into the fabric, and her wide sleeves draped down like cascading clouds. The hem of her skirt spilled onto the floor like flowing water. Her jet black hair was elegantly pinned up into a classical bun, with a few loose strands framing her face, making her pale skin look softer than fresh snow. Her features were flawless, like a masterpiece painting. Normally, she was either fiercely captivating or playfully cute, but right now, she looked exactly like a noble maiden stepping straight out of an ancient painting. Absolutely ethereal, she was glowing with this completely unearthly, fairy-like aura. Seeing me staring at her like a complete idiot, she pursed her lips into a gentle smile, a faint blush blooming across her cheeks. "Zhang Wei, happy birthday. I want to dance for you. Consider it my birthday gift." As her words faded, she didn't even give me a second to process it before she slowly lowered her head. Her delicate fingers formed an elegant classical pose, and the rhythmic melody of ancient music began to softly fill the room. Her body moved gracefully with the tune. She tossed her long silk sleeves like sweeping clouds. Light as the morning mist, the hem of her skirt flared out in gentle ripples. Like a dream, like a beautiful illusion. Honestly, her dancing wasn't exactly professional. A few of the transitions were even a little clumsy and stiff. But the sheer, undivided focus in her eyes, the way she poured her entire soul into every movement, mixed with the deep, tender affection melting in her gaze, It hit me so much harder than any flawless, technical performance ever could. As she spun around, her dark hair and flowing silk twirled together in the air, looking like a gorgeous blue lotus blooming wildly under the moonlight, and when she glanced back at me, her eyes spoke volumes without making a sound, absolutely shimmering with starlight. I could see my own dumbstruck, spellbound reflection in them, with fine wine resting on the side, and a breathtaking beauty in ancient silks dancing gracefully, exclusively for me, in this very moment. Who cares if I was just a thief? Who cares if I was just an employee? Or that she was my boss? Every single barrier between us completely melted away. I sank deeper into the sofa, mesmerized by the surreal, dreamlike vision unfolding in front of me. An incredibly surreal, yet overwhelmingly intense illusion flooded my chest. How could a guy like me, Zhang Wei, ever deserve something like this? I felt like a king drowning in absolute luxury, and the devastatingly gorgeous royal concubine standing right before me. Her eyes, from start to finish, never left me. The dance ended as she leaned in slightly, glancing up with a shy, breathless look. The living room fell dead silent, leaving only the sound of our heavy, racing breaths, and the thick, unspoken tension swirling between us. She stood there, her cheeks flushed crimson, her chest rising and falling. She looked at me, a mix of daring and shy vulnerability, and whispered, "Zhang Wei, did you like it?" Looking at this breathtaking girl standing before me, her watery eyes locked right onto mine. My heart hammered fiercely against my ribs. I loved it. My voice came out incredibly rough and husky. I really loved it. Yi Ziju's eyes lit up instantly, like 1,000 stars had just crashed into them. The blush on her cheeks burned even deeper as she gracefully walked over and sat down right across from me. "Let's eat, then. Time to taste our very own chef. He's cooking." "Sounds good." As we started eating, I raised my wine glass. We gently clinked our glasses together. That crisp chime felt like a silent signal, officially kicking off a night that was destined to be anything but ordinary. And man, the food was absolutely delicious. I had poured 120% of my heart into it. Every single plate was my top secret signature dish. We ate and chatted about our day at the exhibition, and the funny things that happened at the arcade. The vibe between us was so light and happy. She just kept topping off my glass. Under the dim lights and the shimmering wine, those gorgeous eyes of hers were absolutely mesmerizing. The red wine was rich and smooth, with a deep, fruity, oaky flavor. Now, I've always been able to hold my liquor pretty well. I could normally down a whole bottle of hard liquor without breaking a sweat. But somehow, after just a few glasses of wine tonight, an incredibly aggressive wave of dizziness suddenly shot up from my stomach. My head grew incredibly heavy and groggy, and my vision started to blur. Sitting across from me, Yi Ziju's sweet, smiling face seemed to glow behind a soft filter, making her look impossibly beautiful, almost unreal. It felt like someone had lit a massive fire deep inside me, burning so hot my mouth went completely dry. My heartbeat was completely out of control. I shook my head hard, trying to force myself awake, but the heavy, spinning dizziness only got worse. "What's wrong, Zhang Wei? Did you drink a little too much?" Yi Ziju's voice was dripping with concern. As she leaned in closer, her warm breath brushing right against my ear. I forced my eyes up and met her gaze, just inches away from my face. But somewhere along the line, the shy anticipation in her eyes had completely vanished. Replacing it was this triumphant look, a deep, incredibly sly smirk, exactly like a cat that had just swallowed the canary. Something's wrong. The wine, it was spiked. The realization struck my foggy brain like a bolt of lightning. But it was far too late. A crushing wave of absolute weakness paralyzed my entire body. I braced my hands on the table, desperately trying to stand up, but my body just swayed uselessly. My arms turned to complete jelly. I couldn't even muster the strength to lift them. I barely managed to choke out a single syllable before the whole room started violently spinning. In the final split second before my consciousness plunged into total darkness, through my blurred vision, I saw Yi Ziju stand up. Her face was flushed, covered in a blush that was equal parts shy, and completely, utterly determined. Her delicate hand reached softly down to her waist, untying the sash of that beautiful hanfu. The smooth skin of her bare shoulders glowed softly under the light as she leaned in close. Her fingers, carrying a faint, sweet scent, brushed across my burning forehead, and her soft whispers tickled my ear. Zhang Wei, and the very last thing I saw was that shy, yet incredibly bold smile playing on her lips. Then, my consciousness slipped completely into darkness. When I finally woke up, I was blinded by the harsh sunlight pouring through the window. My head felt like it was splitting open. I groaned, forcing my heavy eyelids open as my blurry vision slowly came into focus. The bed underneath me was incredibly soft. Wait, this wasn't the guest room I fell asleep in. Suddenly realizing something, I snapped my head to the side. Yi Zhiju was lying right there beside me, fast asleep. Her long, dark hair spilled across the pillow like silk, and her thick eyelashes rested peacefully against her cheeks. The silk blanket had somehow slipped down to her waist, revealing her completely bare shoulders and delicate collarbones. My mind completely exploded. I froze, totally paralyzed. I couldn't even breathe. Fragmented memories from last night came rushing back like a tidal wave. Her graceful dancing, that intense, dizzying drunkenness, the moment she untied her sash, and then, in the pitch black, the blurry, burning heat of us. Right at that moment, the girl beside me let out a soft groan. She slowly woke up, her eyes meeting my totally panicked, shocked stare. She froze for a second, and a deep, rosy flush quickly spread across her cheeks. She instinctively. Just her big, watery eyes peeked out, blinking up at me. In her eyes, there was shyness, and a bit of panic. And a tiny, almost unnoticeable hint of mischief. Zhang Wei, ever since the day you helped me clean up. I made up my mind,